So I first of all wrote the story, which was about this new discovery with ketones and how it flew in the face of what we've been told about low-fat diet. And I did come across, at the same time as I was doing the story, I was told about somebody in the UK who had started to use coconut oil as a way of treating Alzheimer's, which I then needed to sort out exactly how we got, as it were, from ketones and their use in sports people and mice and rats and so on, to Alzheimer's. So the way that the connection works is this. Coconut oil is unusual in that it contains a fatty acid which is called a medium chain triglyceride, and it's different from the kind of fatty acids or fats which we're used to eating in the West, because the ones that we're familiar with are things like omega-3 and saturated fats that you find in animal products, and the polyunsaturated fatty acids which you find in vegetable oils, for example. And these, the ones that we eat in the West, are all long chain fatty acids. And the coconut oil contains a medium chain. They're called medium chain triglycerides, which is just another fancy word for fatty acids. And these medium chain triglycerides have a particular quality, which is that they are taken up by the liver and directly turned into ketones, which can then be used by muscles and also by the brain. There's another bit of this jigsaw, which is why should the brain of somebody with Alzheimer's need an additional energy source? And the reason is, and this is also quite cutting edge science, and it's far from being widely accepted by everybody, but it makes a lot of scientific sense, is that it's increasingly looking as if one of the problems that goes wrong with people's brain when they have Alzheimer's is that they can't use insulin properly. When you have diabetes, you have a condition called insulin resistance, which means that your cells in your muscles and also in the brain have a problem with getting the glucose into the cell where it can either be stored or can do work in the case of muscles. And so you have a build-up of insulin. You keep producing more insulin to try and do the job, and in the same time your glucose goes up as well. So it looks as though, and there's early research on it, more research needs to be done, but it's quite plausible that one of the problems that Alzheimer's people have is that they can't use the glucose that they're getting from the bloodstream properly. They can't get it into their brain cells because the brain cells have become resistant to the insulin, and so that the insulin, you're not getting enough insulin to get the glucose in. And that, of course, would explain why there's decline of function and so on. And then it all gets a bit more specialized in that you can start to see different parts of the brain where the insulin resistance seems greater. It's not overall the whole brain. It looks as if there's different parts of the brain that can have different levels of resistance. And one of the areas that's particularly common is the hippocampus, which is a part of the brain which is used to lay down memories. So you have a problem with the hippocampus, part of the brain lays down memories, can't get enough energy into its cells in order to do its job, memory starts failing, and you have one of the classic symptoms of Alzheimer's. If you then give these people additional ketones, if you allow them to make ketones via their liver with these medium chain triglycerides from coconut oil, they then start getting an alternative source of energy, starts pumping through their bloodstream. And it looks as though, for some of those people, that they are then able to use that in order to perform some of the things that they were able to do before, and some of their memory comes back and their functioning comes back. And there are a number of other rather subtle changes which an awful lot of work needs to be done to really untangle exactly what goes on. But it does seem at this stage that there is enough evidence to suggest that something beneficial happens to people who take the oil, and this is because they're getting a different source of energy, and their brain cells are able to work more effectively again.